Good morning, everyone. So, can you hear me? Anybody have questions about the quiz stuff? The problems with the quiz? The argumentative research paper quiz? Well, I'll give you a brief accounting of what kind of happens, and then I'll talk about my learning experience. So when I transferred everything from Moodle, you know, not transfer, it's called importing, but when I brought it over from Moodle to Canvas, so when I talk about LMS, Learning Management Systems, those are just two companies that make software for Exchange like this. The way that I had the quizzes created and saved in Moodle didn't transfer or import over very well. It jumbled all the answers, and when there were multiple answers, instead of giving partial credit for any one answer, it gave full credit for every answer, even though the right answer is all of the above. So that's kind of what happened. Another thing that happened was if I had it set as a practice quiz, and it wouldn't show you your grades then, so I had to set it as a graded quiz, and that helped you. So that's all part of my learning curve. And I'll talk a little bit about induction when we get to the chapter material, but induction basically means you learn from your mistakes or from your triumphs. So that was kind of what went down with the quiz. So I initially started by reopening the quiz for a different one of my sections, but when I went through all that work, I just called it something else and imported it. But I had to take points away from people on the first quiz because it was marking things or giving credit for things that were not correct. And on the flip side, I had to make sure you were getting points for things that you had marked correct. So I think I got it right. Question regarding which of the two scores will I keep? Well, probably the higher score. I'm assuming the higher score displays for you your knowledge of that material. But it really kind of depends. If you miss some of the central questions that I was really focused on, then on the retake, then I'll probably have to keep that score even if it was lower. In other words, if you got, say, a 10, and then you did worse, you got a 9, well, that suggests to me that you didn't really know the material at all. You just maybe were guessing, and you guessed better the first time. But the 3 or 4 core questions that you really got to get right: rhetorical situation business, the tentative thesis, and the plagiarism. And it seems like there's another of it. Why we argue. We argue about the past, we argue about the present, we argue about the future. None of that has anything to do with specific topics. It's just whatever we're talking about, we're always arguing about what happened, what's happening, and what will or should happen. So, related to that, and a caveat for you, a slight, caution about how you're going to interpret this. It feels to me when I look at the results that there's a correlation, there's a connection between the time you took to take the quiz and the score you got. Not always. Some people got 15s and it only took them 4 minutes. But most of the time, if you only spent 3 to 5 minutes on the quiz, and you got a 7 or 8 or 9, that's probably pretty good as a guesser, I guess. I don't know. Unless the quiz was just so easy that you were able to race through it. That's not a lecture, it's advice. Because the really important thing is that you get the concepts down before you have to start writing essays. So today we're going to talk about basically reiterating some of the argumentative structure stuff that I talked about Monday. And then we're going to lead to formatting and a formatting exercise that I'm going to ask you to do over the, between now and the long weekend. And plagiarism, a plagiarism exercise that's available for you. And I'll explain how you're going to go through it and all that as we get there. So I'm gonna, any questions before I launch into my spiel? I'm gonna show you, go ahead. Shataria, is that how you say it?
Yeah, I said no, I don't have any questions.
Okay. One other thing. About the email business that I told you about, like if you email me a question, I appreciate when you give me your name and tell me, you know, I'm in your Monday, Wednesday class or whatever, but I'm gonna have to change that because that doesn't quite do it. Unless you want to tell me Monday, Wednesday, a specific time, then it would do it. But all my classes are Monday, Wednesday. So identifying your name in a Monday, Wednesday class doesn't really, I still have to go searching for you to fix whatever it is that you're writing to me about. So if you'll do me this courtesy, when you write to me, just include behind your name or somewhere visible Z26. And I know that's the section you're in. Probably by midterm, I'll have it all memorized. I'll know Xavier's in 26 and, you know, so on and so forth. But for right now, I'm having to like kind of go scrounge around and look through every section to find people. So that's just a small thing. Can you see this? Chapter 7? Anybody? Give me a thumbs up.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Chapter 7, structuring arguments. We pretty much talked about this a little bit. We're going to head through that classical oration, structural design, and those $10 words only because you have to know them for the midterm, but each of those corresponds to a way that we organize our thoughts so that we can deliver them to somebody else. That's all it's all about. So I mentioned inductive reasoning a second ago. That's when you learn something through basically trial and error. And we're going to come back to inductive reasoning later, but you know, if you, I don't know, as a child, we learned pretty much everything through induction. You know, if you go to grab a cookie and your mama slaps your hand, you go to grab a cookie and your mama slaps your hand, sooner or later you kind of make the connection. I don't want to get my hand slapped, so I'm going to wait till she leaves the room to grab that cookie or whatever you're going to do. But you've learned through experience. Professionally, when we get to be adults, we learn that through experimentation, whatever kind of job we're doing or whatever profession we're in. If you're a scientist, you're going to use induction a lot. If you're a detective, you're going to use induction a lot because you're finding pieces of evidence, whether it's scientific evidence or criminal investigation evidence. So that's what induction is, and that's why I said the things that I do right with Canvas help me learn. Things that I mess up on help me learn to make it better next time. The other side of that is deductive reasoning or deduction, and we're going to have a short assignment on and a quiz on deduction later, and we're going to use the Declaration of Independence, which is in this chapter in a few minutes. But deduction is basically a word, kind of like a word equation, where one part has a subpart and then you make a conclusion from the two parts. So you could read a sample right here, you know, dairy products make me sick, ice cream's a dairy product, ice cream makes me sick. Cheese makes me sick, you know, you make the same conclusion from this. It's a very basic one, but from that kind of idea. This would be the example of induction. You know, I ate ice cream, I got hives. I ate cheese, my mouth swells. I get asthma on yogurt, I eat yogurt, and so on. So dairy products must make me sick. That's not a very scientific conclusion because science would say, no, you got to add more factors and figure all that out. But just for the basic notion, there it is. If we were in class, it's this button right here. And I would, you raised your hand, Mr. Schmidt, why do you keep muting yourself? Oh, that's what's causing me not to be audible to you all. That's induction. I wouldn't do that. I usually use the light switch. You know, flick the light switch off, it goes off. Flick it back on, goes on. Flick back off, goes off. Then I say, hey, everybody, what's going to happen when I flick this thing down? It's going to go off. That's induction. We don't know it's going to go off. We do what's called an inductive leap. We assume it's going to go off. One time in, I forget which building it was, they have a whole bunch of light switches. So that control different things, and I flicked it off and the lights got brighter actually. So I guess that was a new learning experience. All right, here we have basically what I already went over with you through the glossary. Here it is presented in the text. This part right here, remember, these three Greek terms, exordium, narratio, and partitio, are simply your introduction that ends in your thesis. They call it the claim. So you're making a claim about something. You're making an assertion about an issue that is debatable. So I don't know what class it was that I mentioned this, but to say the United States penal system, which means criminal justice and all, the United States criminal justice system has a lot of incidents of, I'll say police only because that's the simplest way, but any kind of authoritative entity or whatever, when we use police overstepping their power and their boundaries of their service or whatever. That's not an argument, that's a fact. So I can't make that my thesis, I can't make that my claim. But I can say that since we have a lot of police brutality or incidents of police brutality and unauthorized use of force, we need to enact these kinds of measures, whatever it would be, fire them all, whatever. But that would be my claim that I'm going to try to back up. This is the, hey, listen to me, I got some good stuff to say, or shocking stuff to say, whatever it would be. And this is typically background information or how we got to talking about this. They puts us in the place of talking about it, why we're talking about it. And then this part in the middle is your body. It's only two pieces, but it really is the bigger part of your essay. So if we look down here in the way that we kind of think of it, it's all of this, these three parts, the body information, where you actually back up your ideas. And for educational purposes, for instructional purposes, I'm sure you've had to write things in the past, but for organization, you may start to think about sub-pieces of your claim. So if I were going to make the claim that we need better psychiatric evaluation of police authorities, we need consistent, or repeated training of, I don't know what they would call it, but similar to like a sensitivity training or whatever, understanding how to interact with the public and how not to make stupid decisions based upon emotions and blah, blah, blah. You have to bring in experts. And then I'd have some third thing, like we need to have more I don't know what you call it, but like policing the police, people watching and evaluating how police interact. Just kind of a good thought, actually. Why don't we have, like, for every incident where there's somebody being chased or held, there's somebody who's like a proven authority. So you don't get cases like people shooting somebody in the back because there's so much turmoil happening. Somebody who's got I know it's wishful thinking, but anyway, I'm just being hypothetical here. So that's the Greek terms, but here's the thing I showed you the other day. I had it copied and pasted. This is really kind of how we think about it in modern terms. Your intro, your body, and your conclusion. So what I'm going to do, I mean, it's there for you. You print it out or memorize it, whatever. But what I'm going to do for you as we get closer to the writing, the essay writing assignments, is I'm going to find, or I probably have already, a template of this where it says maybe background, but it's just lines for you to fill in. Everybody understand that? I hope so. To be like a fill in the blank. because the outline helps you organize. So you're not just rambling. We haven't talked about the writing process, and we're not going to talk about it right now, but I'll just tell you the three basic parts. Writing or creating, really. If you're going to write a song, a poem, whatever it is, you often have a period where you contemplate it, right? What am I going to write about? What I'm going to deal with in my song or my poem or my movie or whatever it is. And that's the pre-writing or the pre-thinking stage. And so if you're going to write a speech, you're going to say, well, I'm going to talk about remember this if I offer you an extra credit opportunity, we're going to see Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream, a picture of him delivering it. But sometimes I offer that as an extra credit thing to sort of go backwards, look at, analyze what's his intro? How's he using an intro? How's he get us involved in what he's going to say? Because then you're going to have the real substance in the middle. And then how does he conclude? You know, it's a speech, so there are a lot of these kind of dramatic things you can do with your voice and all that, but you can't quite do the same on paper. But it's a good exercise in trying to think how things are organized, you know, how things are created by our thinking about what am I going to say? How do I make sure I say it well? That's pre-writing. The pre-writing stage ends with an outline. The writing stage is drafting, you write. And then the rewriting stage or the revision stage is really on you, whether you want to do it or not, or if an instructor assigns a new draft. So anyway, the Declaration of Independence here. I told you we talk about it. This is all from the one chapter that was assigned for today. I'm skipping over this preamble part or whatever, because this is the actual argument that Jefferson and his co-writers or whatever that part is the first two parts of the deductive syllogism. If you go back up, that's the fancy word for this deductive word equation. It's a three-parter. First part is humans have rights, right? Humans have the right to not have their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness taken away from them. And kind of the second part of the first part is that the government, whatever government it is assigned to maintain and sustain our rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Part one. Second part of the deductive argument is, and I'm basically giving you answers here to the quiz that you'll take because we'll look at it again in a few weeks. But the second part is, if you don't, whoever my government is, if the government doesn't do that, then you can see it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and establish a new government. Second part of the bigger argument of the Declaration of Independence. Third part is the conclusion. So somewhere down here, it's going to say, you know, King of England, Great Britain, you've been a son of a bitch to us, so we're going to do that second part. Abolish you, alter you, institute a new government. We'll talk about the rest of the Declaration some other time. Not in a political way or anything, but, you know, just its structure. It's a piece of rhetoric. It's not everybody's going to believe it. A lot of people didn't. A lot of Americans didn't even buy that it was all right and true. But this is the same basic information from previously, but it puts it into a smaller, condensed form. Remember, part of in both ways to look at it, you are always considering the opposing viewpoints. A large part of the chapter goes into Toulmin thinking and the Rogerian thinking, which we're skipping for now. We talked about Rogerian thinking basically it focuses on understanding the opposing viewpoint. This is a famous piece of oration, a speech, but it's, you know, shows you how structuring a speech is parallel. It's very similar to structuring a piece of writing. This was delivered to you know, it's the 4th of July, you know, Americans celebrating, waving their flags and all that, but it was delivering largely to his white listeners to see the celebration from a different perspective. Now you got to remember, this is 1850 something, 1852. This is pre-Civil War, no emancipation. This is radical in its time. But hey, what I don't know if you all know this, but it comes from a piece. What to the slave is the 4th of July. So, you know, that's a very political kind of thing. And it might seem incendiary. I don't know if you know that word, but like fiery. It wants to stir things up. Or it could just be Frederick Douglass being very smart and saying, somewhere on here it says, inviting his audience to recognize a version of reality that they could have discovered on their own, to imagine the lives of African Americans, etc. So he's kind of practicing Rogerian. I don't want to get too much into it, but Rogerian, he's forcing it on his audience. Not forcing, that's a harsh word, but he's presenting it to his audience and his receptive audience, right? I don't think the Ku Klux Klan is over there going, yeah, he's got a good point. Remember, that's not who we're trying to reach. We're not trying to reach the extremes when we argue. We're trying to reach the reasonable people in the middle. And here's the Martin Luther King thing I told you about. His speech, along with Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation speech and the Gettysburg Address, and Winston Churchill's, you know, World War II, the beaches in Normandy and all that stuff, speech. All these speeches kind of rank up there as the thing to aspire to, the way they're structured, the way they use language. You know, it's very ministerial, it's very inspirational. I guess that's a good word. Somewhere in here, well, that's the next, so we go to the second part of the chapter. We're not going to do much with this part because it's all about Toolman logic, which is basically the same, but it just kind of flips things around a little bit. Basically the same as deductive reasoning. So instead of a conclusion, we got a claim that we make based upon reasons that we feel the way we do. And the warrant is usually what we consider the major premise. All men are created equal and have the rights to life, to liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Just different terminology, largely for the same stuff. But remember, making a claim is the core of an argument. So always imagine you're hearing somebody say something about the topic you're dealing with that just pisses you off. Now you can't write pissed off. You got to write calm and collected. But it riles you up and you want to say back to them, no, that's not right, whatever. This is all about evidence, and we'll talk more about that, but I've already asked you to think in these terms. Your personal experiences, if you're going to deal with some kind of bigger social issue, whatever kind of ism, or it doesn't have to be an ism, but any kind of injustice or unfairness, whatever that you see in society, your own experiences can play into that. If you've never had any, then try to figure out a different part of you that may have. You know, maybe it wasn't because of your race or your sex or your age. Maybe it was because you're short, or you're poor, or you wear funny clothes, whatever it is. Cyberbullying could be an example of a topic that might be interesting. So I'm skipping over this Toolman. That's this guy who came up with this plan. We'll come back to it later. qualifiers. All right, this is just Schmidt lesson. I like you, all of you, but we don't like you in academic writing, or your, or yourself, or any kind of form of, we call it second person, because it sounds too informal. It sounds the way we speak. Remember, I told you diction, the way we speak often is sloppy or simplistic. So when we use you in everyday speech, we'll say like, you know, my garbage man hardly ever comes on time. When you put your garbage out and you're waiting for him, I just shifted to you when I was talking about my own personal experience. So it counts as a shift, but the way we use it is to mean anybody, whoever puts their garbage out. You just can't do it in academic writing. Now that may change because we didn't used to like I, but most of us accept I experiences now. Another side of that is using qualifiers, or kind of related, not another side, but using qualifiers. What are qualifiers? Well, we don't like absolutes, the other side of qualifiers. Absolutes are all, everybody, everyone. Now, unless it's actually true, but if you said, everyone dreams of success, you know, some people just go about life and hope to get by. We know lots of people dream of success, or many people dream of success, or most people. Those are qualifiers. They let your audience know that you're not so closed-minded as to think that every single human or thing is the same. I think that's it for this chapter stuff. It was really just kind of a repeating of what we've already talked about. You'll see our book repeats itself a lot too. And I have concerns about that because we use the same book for Comp 1 and Comp 2. And it's like, well, when I teach Comp 2, what am I supposed to do differently for Comp 2 than Comp 1? Because the book is not divided into like, you know, sequences like that where you get to the end of part 1 and then go to part 2, but you don't care. That's just my concern. All right, so now on to assignment stuff. How are y'all doing? You all awake? No?
Yes, sir.
Hey.
Yes, sir.
All right, so the plagiarism assignment looks like this. I'll show it to you. Can you see that? This is a passage written by whoever, Gerard Jones. And it's talking about rage. So you're going to read this. We're going to come back to this next Wednesday when we do it together. So we're not going to read it right now. But what you're looking to do is determine, you're pretending like each one of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, each one of these is somebody writing and using this as a source, and then determining did they plagiarize or not. The rules of plagiarism are basically, did they present either exact words or the sentiment that was Gerard, in this case, Gerard Jones, without citing it. So if you see citation, and I'll show you, I don't see any citation here. I already know that this writer is using Gerard Jones, but so I'm not going to tell you the answer, but it should be plain as day for you there. No citations. So citation can include either this, we got the person's name right there, or this, where we call it parenthetical citation. We put in parentheses something that references that person. So 1 and 2 should probably be pretty easy for you. 3 might not be so much. 4, do we have a citation?
Do quotation marks count as citing it?
Quotation marks count as part one of citation. So if you're quoting something and you don't tell me who you're quoting, it's probably not as bad as real plagiarism, but it technically is a form because you haven't told me where it came from. If you cite, like this one person is citing and has page number, it looks good, but you have to look at the whole thing. Does he ever or she ever use exact words? I mean, this person's words, you know, typically if you got 3 or more words in a row, that's too many not to cite it, to say or quote it, I'm sorry. So that's what that assignment is. You're not worried about getting it right or wrong. You're just trying your best to get it right, because we'll talk about it on Wednesday, and there are several of these on the midterm. So that's why I do this, so that you're practiced at figuring it out. Obviously, if you plagiarize yourself, you yourself plagiarize, you're going to know you're plagiarizing. For the most part, unless you do what's called patch writing, and we'll talk about patch writing next week. But basically it would be if I say I was going to use this and I wanted to quote this here. There are some examples of patch writing in here, and so I did this and I said rage, super anger or something can actually be a positive element in our lives. That's still plagiarism, because I stole the idea from, well, I stole it from here, actually, not from him, but that's what patch writing is. So it was on the quiz as an example of plagiarism. What else do I have to show you here?
Can you go over that example again?
Pardon me?
Can you go through that example again?
The patch writing?
I kind of missed it.
I'm gonna have to do it all over. You talk. I don't want that to try again. I'm coming back, just I'm trying to figure this out. Nope, it's wrong. You're a dirty dog, aren't you? Where's my... Well. Messed me up. Patch writing is very dangerous, and students do it a lot. And if you do it, like turn it in, I'll notify the teacher that you have 60% matching. And then the teacher has to go click on the matching. And what it'll be is like, say this would be, I'm gonna do this one instead. This will be highlighted, and all this will be highlighted, and this is all highlighted. But words in between don't match. So what the writer does is take exact words, drop it down into their paper, and call rage, anger, but anger is also the feeling that our culture distrusts mostly. And now what I'm trying to do is fool my teacher or the plagiarize checker, turn it in, into not knowing that I got this from someplace else. It's called patch writing, because I'm patching it together. And it's still considered plagiarism. So I'll come back to patch writing next week, but I'm just giving you a kind of a preview of it. I was trying to and saved it on me. There we go. You see that? This will be my example here. I'm gonna screw it up a little bit for you. This is the formatting exercise, and I'm going to come back to showing you the format in a second, but I don't want to stop this share screen. This is a mess. It's not right. Something wrong all here. I messed it up, but Winkler, whoever that was, messed it up originally. So let's say I'm the writer here and I'm typing this and this is my information. I want to format it correctly in MLA formatting. Well, I'll show you the Purdue picture in a second, the Purdue Iowa picture, but this is way wrong because what this person did here is put all this information inside the header, which means it's going to appear on every page. We don't want that. The only thing we want inside the header, go away. Is this thing here, and we don't need Winkler. We remember it's Winkler, but we want to put a page number here. So we're going to insert at the top of our page over to the right that page number, and then we're going to put our Winkler. Winkler's the last name of the person. So once you do that, it's going to save that and repeat it on every page. This is for Microsoft Word. If you use a different program, there's probably a similar way to do it. I just don't know it off the top of my head. I have to look into it. Or you can do it manually, but there's a danger in doing it manually because then you might mess up the structure of the page. Or you can take Mr. Schmidt's advice if you can't figure it out and just leave it off, just this header information. You may have to do it one day, but for right now, in other words, if I put it right here, I went all the way over. I'm going to justify right, which is one of these. And I'm going to put my Winkler, page 1. Well, it's not going to repeat that for me, for one. And then I'm going to have to put it here again, Winkler 2, manually. But then I might delete some of this, and suddenly I got my Winkler page in the middle of my paragraph. So if you can't figure out how to set it, to do it automatically, I would just leave it off. For me, for Schmidt's class. So this is always going to be your name, my name, course name, date. So Jihad Brooks. You're just the first name I see. We are English 1123-Z26. That's a misspelling of my name. It's got 2 T's, and none of this should be all caps like this. Anybody know where to find the undo caps thing? I think this is it. That's going to turn it to lowercase. Make me angry. How about that? That's it. This is supposed to be my title. I don't remember the paper, but what's wrong with this title? Titles don't get bolded. They don't get big giant print. They don't get colorful. They don't get quotation marks around them. Everything's 12-point font, no bolding. Well, and it's centered. And the other thing about this is it's also, wait, I'm missing something here, right? So you can put whatever date you're doing your assignment on. Typically, this is the way that we put it, but you could put September 9, comma 2020, however you like to do it. You can put the dashes 09 slash, whatever the date is. Everybody follow that? I put September 9th because it's the 9th month. I'm stupid, huh? So I don't know what that is. Random thing.
Hey, Professor, our screen is frozen.
What?
Our screen is frozen.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
The screen is froze. Like, you didn't move.
Oh, can you see my cursor?
No.
All right, let me see. Let's try again. Can you see it now?
Yeah, I can see.
All right. So basically all I did is put the right information in. This is the heading. This is the header. What goes inside of there is the header. And I got my title in the right place, but now I need to double space this. But you know what? I forgot. I want a paragraph right here. So that's going to mess me up. And I don't need all this space in here. So I'm going to go in here. This is just for formatting purposes. I know I want it double spaced, but I don't want it to add all that extra space between things. So I'm going to click that. This is in Word again. And then when I do that, it double spaces it for me. Of course, I didn't do my indenting. Indent your paragraphs. And then you got a pretty paper, or at least a paper that's supposed to, the way it's supposed to look. So why am I telling you all that? I'll stop that share because you're going to do, I don't know where I am here, inside of modules. For next week, we don't meet on Monday. We don't meet this Friday. So for Friday, you're going to make sure you read stuff about plagiarism as much as you need to. And then down here, this document here is the document that I just showed you about the rage. You're going to pull it up and format it however you want, but then you're going to submit it right here. So when you open that, it's going to open up like a box where that will appear, but there's a link, a document link right above it. Show that to you. This right here. Eventually the document will come up here. Now, if you don't want to do all of that, you can just create your answers on a separate sheet of paper, you know, without actually downloading it. Just for number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then submit that here. By the way, somebody asked me about Sunday's assignment in an email. I forget who it was, but there's no such thing as a Sunday assignment. We don't meet on Sundays. Nothing can be due on Sundays. Even if this were a fully online class, I would never have anything due on a Sunday. It closes on a Sunday, so that's why I make that the due time. But that just simply means it's open for you. It's really due as Friday's assignment. Everybody understand that? So, and this is the formatting. Go ahead.
You said the plagiarism docs, and then what was the other assignment?
I'm about to show you that.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
That's right here, the formatting assignment, which is, you know, I have it as Friday of last week, but I'm not going to look at it until next week. It's just practice in doing what I just did using one of these. Just pick one. They're just documents from the past that I messed up, and you're going to try to get them right. Questions about that? You had a question, or did you say no?
No, I'll say no.
Okay, so you don't have the correct grammar or anything like that, unless it's part of the main stuff, the header or the heading or the title. But you're not really checking for grammar inside the paper or anything. You're just doing formatting. All right, so that brings us close to the end. And now you're going to help me by maybe unmuting yourselves, and I'll just go through the roll quickly. Just shout out when you hear me say your name. Daranisha, I know you're here, right? Jihad, I know you're here. Jerome, I think I saw your name. Damien, did I see your
Here.
name?
Yes, I'm here.
I can stop the share and that way I can see you all. Sorry. There you go. Oh, it's not cooperating with me. All right. Trinity, I see your name. Sierra? Sierra? I see your name. Alexis? Pretty sure I saw your name. Once I call you, you can log out or whatever. Alexis, did I see?
All right.
There you are, Alexis. Angel?
Here. Right here.
I hear you. Xavier? I see you. Jaden? You here? No, Jaden? Going once? Marvin? Marvin? No? Valencia?
I'm here.
Thank you. Elena?
Here.
Jaren? Oops, that's the wrong thing.
Here. Here.
Okay. Zoe, did I see you? Zoe? No Zoe? All right, I got everybody.
Did you call turn?
No, but I saw your name, so. Michaelian, am I saying your name right? Shataria, Taryn, Nuzani, Sanaya.
Here.
Here.
That's it. Have a good day, and I forgot I won't be seeing you all till next Wednesday, so have a good weekend as well.
You too.
All right, you too.
What else is the formatting and what else?
Plagiarism. Formatting and the plagiarism. The plagiarism, the formatting is at the end of this week, the
I
link,
see that.
and the
And
plagiarism is the second and third thing, I think.
is it the Wednesday read chapters 17?
Wednesday, yeah, that's a whole new thing for next Wednesday.
So I got the formatting and I'm trying to find the plagiarism.
Wait, once again, let me see if I can find it. It's can't find it. Okay, so it says week 3, September 7th through 11. The thing right under Labor Day, Monday, September 7th, there's the document, and then right beneath
Okay.
that is where you submit it.
Okay, I see it.
And we're going to
Thank
go
you.
over the plagiarism sheet on next Wednesday.
Okay.
Jerome, we're doing all right? Darnisha? Marvin? Just hanging out?
My bad.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. McCallion, are you still there? McCallion? No? Take care, everyone.